me interviewing Abbi Eder with Sterling Law is very clear. There are a lot of people, especially home buyers, that are relocating to the Raleigh, North Carolina area. And first of all, they've never even heard of an attorney closing a deal. Second, they are questioning what is it that the attorney actually does in a real estate transaction. So I would like to go into some details for all of you guys, not only as to what does the attorney do, but what is our journey with the attorney in that real estate transaction. So me, the attorney, the lender, what's happening here in the state of North Carolina, so you're very clear as to why is it that you're actually paying an attorney to close your real estate deal. Hey, Abbi, welcome to to the show. How are
Thank you for
you?
having me today.
Yes, my pleasure. You look wonderful.
Thank you. You as well.
Is it just as hot in your side of Cary as in my side of Cary?
Very hot, and we have these big floor-to-ceiling windows right here next to me, so the sun is like beating in on me. So might see a little bit of a glare and see me sweating a little bit, but that's because it's hot.
Yeah, well, if this is how you look when you're sweaty and hot, I will take it every day. Not only are you pretty, but you're knowledgeable. And so I would like you to tell me a little bit about you, a little bit about your practice. How long have you been in this journey called real estate attorney? Just so that people know who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Abbi Eder, and I'm originally from Cary, North Carolina. I know, super rare. I'm a unicorn. Everyone tells me all the time.
Yeah.
But was born and raised here, lived here my whole life, moved from one side of Cary over to the other side, so didn't go very far. I've
No.
seen it evolve like crazy. What I used to have as a 10-minute drive from one side of Cary to the other is now 30 minutes because everyone's found out how cool Cary is and they all want to live here, which is wonderful. So
Yes.
super excited that everyone's coming here. I went to school locally around here, and then I went to App up in the mountains for undergrad. And then I came back locally and I went to North Carolina Central for law school. And I loved it, loved the opportunities that both of those schools provided for me. And then I decided to stay with the law firm I was actually working with originally while I was in law school. I worked there for a year. We did real estate. That's actually all I've ever done is real estate law. So went straight into real estate law for a year at that law firm. And then I left there and I've been with Sterling Law ever since. So I started with Sterling at the start of the pandemic, and we've been rocking it together ever since, and I absolutely love it. I love dealing with people all day. You get to meet so many cool, interesting people from different walks of life, and that's what brought me to real estate.
Can you tell me? I know this was not necessarily part of where the discussion was going to go, but how many offices do you guys have
We
right
have
now?
5 offices. So I actually run our Cary location, and then we have a Durham location, which I run as well. We have a Raleigh location, which is like right off of Glenwood. We have
Mm.
a Clayton office, downtown Clayton, and then we have a Charlotte office. So all 5.
And how many people do you serve per year?
Oh goodness, that's a good question. We serve tons of people, to be honest with you. It really depends. When the market's booming, I could be in closing back to back all day. So that's 8-hour workday. I'm in at least 8 closings a day times the amount of days we work. So
Yeah.
we serve a ton of people.
The only reason I'm asking is because I want you to, all of you that are watching, to really, really um, know that just like she said, and she's like a native Cary, that's so rare. So many people come here, so many people relocate to the Raleigh, North Carolina area that the real estate attorneys, each and every one of them, and new construction, there's a lot of attorneys that focus only on that. They're booked 100% of the time, and there are several attorneys in their offices. So just so you can see the big picture and understand that you're moving, that there's so many people, and that is why the market is extremely competitive. Pricing has increased like crazy. And so going into the process itself, I think like with all of the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people that you've been serving since you graduated, you've seen a lot, and I would like to dig a little bit deeper for all of our viewers to see what you do and how complicated a real estate transaction can actually be. Right? It's not just here's we're buying a house, take care. It could be, but then there are some transactions that could be complicated. So the first question that I have is, how are you actually involved in the process for the buyer?
So absolutely. So we basically get involved as soon as that contract is executed. Once you guys execute that contract, buyer, seller both execute it, your agent or whoever has the contract at the time it's executed wants to send it over to us, we will
Mm-hmm.
go ahead, open that document in our system, go ahead, send out information sheets to all parties, all agents, sellers, buyers, everybody gets an information sheet from us. And then we
Mm-hmm.
will do something called a title search, which is we will go in and we will search the county and we will make sure that title you are getting as a buyer is actually clear. You don't want liens against your property. You don't want someone saying, hey, I actually
Mm-hmm.
own that property. That wasn't the seller who sold it to you, was not me. Anything like that, we'll go ahead, we'll go and search that title, make sure it's clear. If
Mm-hmm.
there are issues that come up, let's say there's a judgment that comes up, we will go in, we'll go ahead and make sure that's taken care of. We do not want to pass unclear title to the buyer. So that's really where we come in. And then once all that's taken care of, the buyer and the seller, everyone will come into our office, not together. You will all have your own separate appointments. And you will come in, sign your documents with us. Sellers take anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. Usually it's not a lot of documents. And then buyers, you'll come in. If you're using a lender, lenders take anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes for us to sign that entire package. Cash, if you're buying cash, you do not have to come in and sign. You can docu-sign your documents unless you decide you want to come in and hang out with us for a little bit. So that's really what you do. You come sit at the table, sign the documents with us, transfer your funds to us for closing. And then as soon as we get those funds for closing and if you have a lender, get the funding authorization from that lender, we can go ahead and record with the county. And then at that point, you own the home. You are the buyer. You have moved here to Cary, to Raleigh, to the Triangle area. And we are so excited to have you at that point.
So you are you are the person who checks for the title, like you said. You are the person who, like, what happens if there's a judgment? Can you just give me a quick example of what's your first step in addressing a judgment on a
Yeah,
title?
absolutely. So there are some people, let's just use this name for example, John Smith. There are probably over 100 John Smiths out here in the Triangle area. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to reach out to that John Smith, say, hey, can you give us an ID? We're going to see if there's a social security number attached to that judgment. We're going to see if there's an address attached, anything like that, that can basically take that person out of the running for that judgment. If we are unable to do that, we will then say, hey, does this judgment ring a bell to you? Is there anything out there for you? If the person says no, we'll go ahead, we'll get them to sign a judgment affidavit, basically states that this judgment is not against them. They are swearing that. If it is against them, we will go ahead and get it paid off. So we'll reach out to whoever the creditor is for that judgment, make sure that we can get those funds taken care of on the settlement statement so that as soon as the buyer acquires title, that the judgment's not sitting out there attaching to the property.
Okay. Um, that's good to know. So, have you had a case where there was lien? I've had a case many years ago where I had a listing actually, and um, the title was not clear, and we couldn't close because everyone that was involved in the transaction, the purchase of that home, was like a family thing, and they were passing titles on like from one person to another without actually the help of a real estate attorney. And so it was very, very stressful. Of course, the due diligence funds had to be earnest money. Everything had to be given back. The buyers were heartbroken. So it happens, right? That there are some things that you just cannot, I guess, foresee.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a case where you couldn't pay, the judgment, you couldn't handle the situation and they couldn't close?
So we have had, I'll speak to two scenarios for this. The first one is where the prior attorney who did the closing missed, I think there were 5 or 6 judgments against a prior seller. And so when we were doing our title search, because we normally go back 30 years, we saw that those judgments were there. They had not been taken care of. They were still outstanding. So I had to reach out to that attorney. And luckily, that attorney was willing to work with me. He realized that he had missed them. He reached out to the creditors. They negotiated the terms, and we collected for them on the settlement statement and paid all of those judgments off. That did take a few weeks. It ended up delaying closing a little bit. But what buyers have to understand is that we're working in your best interest to make sure those judgments are taken care of. If we would have just said, okay, nope, we're not going to take care of those judgments, they would have still been attached to that property. So that is one scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is we do have to get underwriting approval for some things because we have to be able to issue title insurance for the buyer. And I had one where the judgment was so large that title insurance was not willing to move forward with it because there were not going to be enough funds to cover it and things like that. So we kind of had to say, hey, this property right now is just tied up in this lawsuit, basically. So we can't move forward with it. And I honestly don't know what happened with that property, but I know that they were not able to move forward with it with any title insurance companies.
Wow. See, I'm so happy I asked because a lot of people don't know any of these things. And it could be extremely stressful because in this case, what happens to the money that you just gave to the sellers if you get to the contract? And our job as realtors is to make sure we communicate really well with the other party, the listing agent. So we bring so much value to the table that it's just something that you can't really overlook. In my case, as a seller, listing agent for my seller in that specific situation, um, they had absolutely no clue, my clients, because the judgments and everything was like 3 or 4 generations back. Like you said, 30 years. They had moved into the house 5 years ago. The person that they bought it from, grandma, like had passed, the husband passed. So it was all a matter of so many unfortunate situations. And of course, I go very, very deep with all of my questions when I list the home because we can't just assume that everything's okay. There are people who want to sell their homes. Speaking of, marital interests in North Carolina, there are people who don't know that here in the state of North Carolina, if let's say a gentleman marries and he had purchased a home, before, there are people who are trying to still sell their homes if they divorce without involving the current wife and buyers that don't know any of that. There's been crazy instances when the man pretended to go to the closing with the wife who was the girlfriend while the wife was traveling. So we go deep. Our job and the attorney's job is to go deep and make sure we represent your best interest so you won't be in a situation where you're, yeah, you're losing a lot of money. So the next question is, so speaking about the money, right, and about the due diligence, I know that this is a really, really hot topic. Long story short, and you guys have seen, and I will do another video on this, but I do have it on my YouTube channel about due diligence. At the time of contract, the buyer needs to provide the due diligence funds to the sellers. Now, give me a situation, right? I'm sure you have had a situation where the buyer said, we're changing our minds, we don't want this house anymore, we want our due diligence money back. Not earnest money, you guys. Earnest money is a completely different story. I'm talking about due diligence. Abby, what happens in this situation?
Unfortunately, here in North Carolina, we have earnest money and we have due diligence. Due diligence is basically the buyer paying the seller saying, hey, I'm interested in this house. You are taking it off the market. This money is yours no matter what. And that is a very hard thing for people to understand. There is no return period on that due diligence. As soon as you sign that contract and hand over that money, it is non-refundable in most circumstances unless there's a material breach. So what I tell people is if you are for any reason unsure that you are willing to move forward with this house, go back, take a second look at it, and then execute the contract. Because if you're signing over a $20,000 check, 100,000, whatever due diligence is, I mean, we saw crazy due diligence amounts during COVID. You don't want to be out of pocket for $100,000 just because you decide you don't like the size of the closet in the house, which, yes, I've seen that, guys. People have lost $100,000 over the size of a closet when they've seen it. So just to make sure that your client understands that that money, as soon as they sign it over, that is no longer theirs. They need to be comfortable signing over whatever amount of due diligence they are putting on that contract.
And again, that money goes back to you guys at closing.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
considering your closing, same with the earnest money. But North Carolina is a buyer beware state, which means here's the money, I'm giving it to you, deposit the money, Mr. Seller. I'm going to take my time to do my due diligence, do the inspections and all of that. And during that due diligence time, we're going to, maybe, hopefully, you're going to do a survey. You're going to do your inspections. The appraisal is going to happen. All this cool stuff is going to happen, which is why we're here to make sure we explain that up front. So, because there's money involved in that too. If you're getting a loan, right? There's appraisal fees that are involved. There's the inspection that you have to pay. You need to get the report. We need to negotiate for you. So the attorney is definitely going to be there to protect you in case there's a material breach, which Abby just mentioned. So I know everybody's calling about this and they're like, we can't, what do you mean? We're coming from, we have these contingencies. We have all this. Now, can me and Abby talk and say, listen, we're going to put an addendum there. The attorney is always helping us with creating documentation. Nobody's going to make you sign anything or do anything. And if you're very stressed over this, can I go to the listing agent and say, here, Abby from Sterling Law drafted an addendum, because we're not allowed to, you as a buyer, I mean, yes, you can write a letter or whatever, but here's a drafted addendum from the attorney stating, if we discover that, there's something specific, maybe there's a unique case, right? Like, I don't know about that particular property. Can Abby write something? Can I attach it to that contract? Absolutely. But guys, I've been doing this for 12 years and I've never, ever in my whole career had any seller look at an offer that had an addendum saying they will be giving you the money back, the due diligence money back.
Especially in how hot of a market it is right now. Honestly, with people having multiple offers, if you have those contingencies and those additional addendums, they're probably not even
going to. They're not even going to look. They're not going to care. They know the rules of North Carolina, so they're just going to be like, whatever, next, and so that is the situation, unfortunately. Well, and in a way, to be very honest, there needs to be some sort of accountability and there needs to be some sort of a skinning in the game, because there are way too many clients or buyers, like Abby said, that are changing their minds for stupid stuff. And this is a big transaction. So is it your right to change your mind and lose your $100,000? Absolutely, you guys. Keep on losing that money. But hey, we're there to protect you so that you won't have to lose your money, right? That's our job. And so going into this real estate transaction, understanding that you might lose this due diligence, if you have an agent that doesn't know their job, doesn't understand what the material fact is, doesn't do their due diligence properly before putting that offer for you, my role is not just to open the door for you guys. That is, anyone can do that for $10 an hour. Feel free to do that yourself. Download an app. My job is to be there to tell you what these contracts are about, what you're risking to lose, negotiate everything, communicate with the attorney, ask questions about your particular case, represent you to to the best of my capacity to make sure that you are having the least amount of things that you have to do in this transaction. Speaking about protection, wire fraud is huge. Wire fraud is almost like a trend. I've been there. I was told to list the land, Abby. I asked for IDs. They just wouldn't come on Zoom with me. Sent me IDs, all of that. And I actually fell for it. And this was 5 years ago. Can you believe that?
Oh my goodness.
Fell for it. Listed the land. 5 minutes after, I think it synced in, Zillow and all of that, I got a call from a guy who said, oh, I was under contract with that land like 3 weeks ago and we almost closed on it. Had our attorney not discovered that the documents, some sort of document that the sellers were sending was coming from a different location than where they said they were, we would have lost all of our deposit and everything. And so that person saved me. I terminated immediately. I called and I recorded the sellers.
Yeah.
They took the identity of two elderly people that live in Cary that have this hot land, and they were just using agents to just say, we're old, we don't know how to, just list it, we found you online. People were falling for it. What do you see when it comes to wire fraud and fraud generally?
So wire fraud is a huge thing, like you said. We always tell people our wire instructions are not going to change. You are going to get them from us. Before you ever set up a wire, go to the bank, do anything, please call my office and confirm that those wire instructions are actually what you received. Your email can get hacked, agents' emails can get hacked, things like that all the time can get hacked, and anybody can send you fake wiring instructions. If they look a little suspicious, that's probably because they are. If they say a random LLC's name as the company name and it doesn't say Sterling Title, or let's just say it says Bob's LLC, that means that wire is going to Bob's LLC. It's not coming to Sterling Law. So make sure that those wire instructions are correct. Call us. If you want to call me 10 times to confirm those wire instructions, I will happily answer your call 10 times to confirm your wire instructions, because I understand you are sending a massive lump sum of money to us. And as soon as you hit send on that wire, it is very hard to pull it back. There are some ways to do it, but it is not 100% guaranteed. I mean, you can get the FBI involved and things like that. But even if you do get the FBI involved and a wire was sent to the wrong account, they're going to try to freeze that account, but it can take months to get your money back. So you can end up not being able to close on the property that was going to be your dream property and that you were going to move into tomorrow, because now you're out $500,000 or whatever it may be. So anytime you get those wire instructions, please, please, please call the attorney. Don't just look in the subject line of the email and look for a phone number on that email. Look up the firm, call the number that you're able to find on Google. Make sure that the number that you're calling is actually the number that your agent has for that law office as well.
Yeah, and again, it's not only like the at the beginning when you have to do, like, for example, like, or at the closing of the transaction. It's throughout the whole transaction. There could be so many people trying to get money from you, pretending that they're calling from on my behalf or on the real estate agent, attorney's behalf. And I will add one thing that's very important. There are a lot of websites selling your information out there. There are a lot of agents, unfortunately, for some crazy reasons, they don't have protection on their emails. They don't have protection on the software they use, where your documents, the offer, everything, right? We store them in a specific software where nobody, no Zillow, no third party has access to your information. It's very important. So don't just hire an agent off of the street or an attorney off of the street, because not all attorneys, like when you just said this, Abbi, that the attorney had missed the judgments, I'm like, how does that even freaking happen?
They will surprise you, the things that I have seen. And speaking to security, we have a secure portal. So everything is sent secured from us. So make sure you know who you're working with on both ends, the agent end and the attorney end, because you want people that are going to be there to protect you. And there's people out there that might just not know what they're doing. And that's, they hopped in and they're half doing their job, and it's hard for you as the buyer to recognize that. So if you have trusted allies on your side, it's going to be a lot easier.
A lot easier and safer. And you're not gonna, how much money do you want to save? If you're gonna go with some cheap attorney, I think that I'm sorry to just normally these closings are super similar when it comes to pricing, right? I don't think you guys charge.
I think everybody in the triangle charges about the same for the process.
Do you mind sharing the pricing?
Yeah, so our pricing, we charge $9.90 for a title search and attorney's fees, so it's $5.95 and $3.95.
Exactly.
So Super. Those are our attorney's fees. I mean, there are little other things that you can add on if you want to do it, like a POA is extra, a free trader agreement, little things like that are extra. But the base fees, I would say, for every single law firm are very comparable. And, you just want to pick one that you know is going to have your best interest in heart.
Yeah, so she touched a really good point. POA, trader agreements, also surveys, like, as I said, during the due diligence, if you are buying a house with a lot, and you, I can just call Abby and say, hey, in on that sheet that she's going to send you, the buyer information sheet, it's going to ask you, do you want a survey? So then they are the ones that are arranging that, right? You have a third party
So
who
the
you.
third party on our portal, there's literally a button that they just press and they say,
Oh.
it says order survey here. It drops down, it has a bunch of surveyor options, and then they just pick which surveyor they want to work with, and then they submit the order to the surveyor. Surveyor will send, if you want a quote, surveyor will send back that quote, and then they'll proceed. They'll send us the survey as soon as it's done, send us the invoice. You don't have to pay the surveyor directly before it's done. We collect that on the settlement statement, so it's kind of lumped into what you bring to closing.
But
And
you help with interpreting it.
yes, we do. We help with interpreting it. As soon as we get it, we'll take a look at it. If there's anything there, we'll say, hey, this is what was found. Let us know if you have questions about it. But
Yeah.
one thing I will say, and I'm sure you've seen this a lot with surveys lately, is surveys are, weeks out. So if you want a survey, as soon as we get that file open, please go ahead and order that survey. Because if you wait until the week before, most likely you are not going to have your survey back in time for closing. And so you have to decide if you're okay proceeding without the survey or if you're going to try to push closing out to proceed with the
I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it. What happens if they, like you said, don't order the survey in time, and they wake up, you know, before closing or whatever? Of course, the due diligence time has passed. Again, I know the answer, but you guys, what do you think? Do the survey and the due diligence time, do they go hand in hand or do they not? I would be curious to see what you say. Abby, what is the answer?
So I will say that anything that shows up on the survey, title insurance is going to take exception to. So basically, anything that would have shown up on a survey, if you don't get it, title insurance is not going to cover. So let's just say I had one the other day. There was a shed in the back of the house, and the shed was built, I would say, 50% over the property line. And so it was encroaching onto the neighbor's lot. Luckily, the neighbor was it was HOA owned property, but the neighbor's like, okay, we're not going to move whoever shed it is. Let's say it belongs to the land that you're buying, then that belongs to you. It's encroaching off of your land onto the neighbor's lot. However, if it was the neighbor's shed and it was encroaching onto your land, you have to decide if you're okay with that, because now you're accepting that land knowing that someone else's shed is sitting on your property. So a lot of people will do encroachment agreements. Fence encroachment agreements are a big thing. I can't tell you how many of those I've drafted and recorded. But one thing to keep in mind with the fence encroachment agreement is that it has to be signed by the neighbor and the owner of the lot that you're buying. So we have to then get the neighbor involved. A lot of people don't feel comfortable stirring the pot right before they move in. So I had one probably 6 months ago where it was a guy buying the land, and he told me he didn't want to stir the pot with the neighbor, but there was some encroachment coming onto his property from his neighbor. And I said, well, you have to decide if that is something you're willing to accept. It is your land. You have to understand that. So there's some people that want that encroachment agreement in place as before we even record. And there's some people that are like, okay, I see what's on the survey. I'm just going to accept the survey as is.
Mm-hmm.
But the surveys, I mean, they'll come back. We get them back when we do. Some of them we get back the day of closing if you ordered it in not enough time. And I will say there are some surveyors that I have in my back pocket. If your client wakes up the day before closing and is like, I need a survey on my property, we have to get this done today, I have a surveyor I can call. A lot of times they will go out there and do a rush for me, but it's normally double the cost of what a typical survey is, because they have a team that they're taking away from another project to go out there and get your survey done.
Yeah, and it depends on how big your lot is. So I'm going to ask the question a different way. Does survey have anything to do with due diligence period?
So, I mean, not necessarily your due diligence period is, hey, you have this amount of time to go out there and do the inspections and decide, hey, do I want to move forward with the property? Once that due diligence period hits, that's when your earnest money is no longer yours after that.
Okay. So where I'm going with this is this is where I'm going with this. The due diligence period, you're paying a due diligence fee for. Then you have an earnest money that kicks in after the due diligence period ends. If you decide to walk away a day before closing, most probably you're going to lose the due diligence and the earnest money. If I'm a good agent, right, I'm going to say, you need to order that survey, just like Abby said, not even because the surveyors are like super backed up, but because if you discover something, you want to walk away in that due diligence period if something's really that you cannot live with.
Major is on that survey.
Now, based on my
house is built over the line.
Yeah. And based on my knowledge, though, like the survey or anything, it doesn't necessarily mean much, if we get the survey after the due diligence period per se, because we can, we still work with the seller. Besides the fact that you're going to lose your money, I mean,
if you don't
earnest money as well. Yeah. So it's very important that whenever you hire an agent, you know the timing of when things need to be done, because nobody is going to tell you all of this if you decide to go with an agent that does this like 3 times a year, doesn't really care. They're going to be like, yeah, let me just get your house, open a home for you, and let's move on and choose a cheap attorney, or I don't even know, and I'll give you half of my commission back, because they don't really put so much effort into making you understand that there are so many pieces to this puzzle. And again, you might buy a house where you want to build something on that lot. You might want to build
put up a fence on your lot. You want to know where your lot lines are.
Yeah, but there are so many people that want to go outside, right, in Clayton or Nidell, and they want to buy a big piece of land. Now, not only are they not aware that there's all these pipes, or there's a septic tank in there, or, there are, maybe there's a creek in the back, and there's like a 100-foot, what's the word, in where you can't build anything, like it's an easement. Like there's like you have to have that 100 feet.
A
buffer. Yeah, exactly. So if your agent doesn't even touch that, you might close, and then you might want to go and say, I have a builder, I'm going to do this, and I'm like, you're not allowed to do that. It's a natural protected area. There's so many things that you're not aware of, because guess what? The agent or the attorney or whoever your team was, whatever your decision was at the time when you started, was not there to inform you. So you thought you were having the time of your life, and there you are. Now you can't do anything with your backyard. So this is very, very important. That's why you pay for a good agent, you pay for a good attorney that's going to do the title search properly, check for that survey, have the right connections if they need to pull, like you said, a surveyor that is there that's going to do them a favor. It's a relationship business ultimately. So they're going to help us out because they know we're doing good for our clients.
Well, that, and you also want an agent and an attorney who are going to be available and answer your calls, answer your emails.
Yeah.
There are so many people that tell me, they call me, I can't reach my attorney because my attorney's in court. I will tell you, you will never find any of us in court. All we do is residential and commercial real estate. So we're here. If I'm in closing, you're going to get a call back after I'm out of court. And, if your agent's on a showing, you're going to get a call back when she's done with her showing. But, at least having someone who's going to respond to you is going to be a big plus, because you're going through this major life purchase. You want to know that you have people that are available to talk to you about the things you have questions about.
Yeah. This question is so funny. Can a buyer return a home after closing?
I mean, you laugh. Oh my goodness. I can't tell you how many times I've been asked this, y'all. Always just keep this in mind. We are not Costco. Buying a house is not like Costco. There are no returns. As soon as you buy that house, as soon as you close, it's your house. Can't return it. Can't take it back like my dad told me. It's yours. It is. There's a 0-day return policy on buying a house. As soon as we record the county, that house is your house.
Yeah, I had to ask this question. Cannot believe people are asking this crap. I'm sorry, you guys, if you're watching us, we're beautiful ladies, but this language comes out of me because I cannot comprehend how some people say, well, we're just gonna, we're gonna return. And all of these freaking companies out there and all of these big giants say, you can enter the home and it's so easy with an app, and then you can return the house after 2 weeks if you don't like it. It's what? What are you talking about? Like,
Not
how is
costing
this
enough.
even
No return.
going? Yeah, Costco wholesale buying homes and wholesale attorneys and wholesale. It's all good, y'all. Just come to North Carolina. We'll get your house. You'll return it. How about that? I'll sell it for you for 6% 1 month after you close on it. No problem. All right. Next question. And we've talked a little bit about this, but um, if a client buys a house by themselves, but then they get married, does the spouse have any marital interest in that house?
Yes, unfortunately, North Carolina is one of those weird states. I know I hear it all the time from people moving out of state. We are a weird state here. We are 1 to buy, 2 to sell. So
Yeah.
once you buy that house, your spouse has a marital interest in that property, unless you have a free trade agreement, a prenup, anything like that. But those are all weird circumstances. That's not the norm. Most people come to me, they think, okay, I'm buying this house in my own name. As soon as I go to sell, my wife, my husband, they don't have an interest in the property. That is not correct. In North Carolina, if you were to buy a house today as a single person and you
Yeah.
get married, as soon as you get married, let's say you want to sell your house in a year and you think, okay, I'm going to be the only one who needs to sign all the documents on the seller side. That is not correct. Your spouse will need to sign all those documents with you as well, because they have that marital interest that we need to make sure is extinguished as soon as that deed is transferred.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess she answered everything. I'm not gonna go anywhere else. Just talk any because I've had so many incidents when they're like, "We don't care. Yeah, we just got married." But you got
And in
married.
North Carolina, you're either married or you're divorced. There's no in between scenario here. You can be separated, you are still married until that divorce is finalized, Joe.
Yeah, and you have
I
to be
know many people.
separated for 1 year, right? North Carolina is one of those states that goes, "Are you sure you want to be divorced for 1 year? You're gonna have to be separated just to make sure."
One divorce law here.
I know. All right. Last question. Is there anything a buyer needs to bring with them to closing?
Absolutely. Please make sure that you are bringing an unexpired, valid ID. I can take a driver's license, I can take a passport. Please make sure you're bringing that with you. And also, please make sure whatever name you want on the contract matches your name on your ID. We have to notarize documents for you guys. And if you write that your name on the contract is Jim Smith and you show up to my office and your name is Bob Doe, I'm going to be looking at your ID wondering who you are. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to notarize your documents. So please, please, please make sure that it's unexpired and that it has a name on it that you are going to be signing with.
Yeah. And I was giggling because I was thinking Costco card.
I need your Costco card. Unfortunately, just like the no Costco returns here, we don't take those Costco cards.
Here I am. I'm buying a house. Here's my Costco card as my valid ID. I was just there shopping for like, oh my God, I gotta cover this thing. Shopping, changing your jobs, shopping for freaking furniture worth $20,000 before you close. Do not do that. Do you see her face? Do
I
you
have
see?
so many. I have had people, I had a person buy an entire house the day before we closed. And there's a document that almost every lender has that says, have you acquired any new debt? And that person said, yeah, closed on another house the day before. I said, are you kidding with me? No. We had to send that entire file back to underwriting. He was very lucky that he still qualified for his mortgage, but it happens all the time. Don't go buy a car. Don't go buy a boat. Don't go buy another house. Don't go buy lots of furniture.
Yeah.
Once you close, you can go do all the furniture shopping you want, but let us get you recorded first.
Yes. To the point where if you're getting a loan, even changing your job like getting let's say you change your position, you become a CEO suddenly. That needs to be, we need to be informed of that. It's a better paying job. It's all good, right?
Your loan is, you're qualified for your loan based on your job, your income, things like that. And they do verify your income and they verify your employment. So they will call your employer most likely the day of closing to make sure you are still employed. Please do not quit your job the day before closing.
Oh my God. And I need to ask this question. I keep on saying last question, but this is way too good. Abby, I cannot believe how many people are calling me and saying, we want to buy this as an investment, but we're going to say we're buying it as a personal primary residence, and then we're just going to rent it out. And then I look at them and I go, and you're telling me this and you're expecting me to want to work with you? Like, is this how it's supposed to go? Is this the intent of the conversation? Can you believe people are doing that? This is worse than Costco.
It's worse than Costco. It's worse than the returns. I will say mortgage fraud is a real thing, guys. You are getting your loan and your interest rate based on either it being your primary, a second, or an investment. So you need to make sure whatever you are telling your lender is true and accurate, because mortgage fraud is real. It's investigated by the FBI. You can go to prison. Please do not commit mortgage fraud. If you are buying an investment property and you are using a lender, you need to let that lender know that it is an investment property. This is not going to be your primary residence. And yes, you are probably going to have a little bit higher interest rate, but you are an investor. It is okay. You have to be honest in this process.
And last question. You want to have lunch? Last. But it just hit me. So the market has changed considerably, and a lot of people can't afford to buy a house with the current interest rates. Have you started closing a lot of on a lot of assumable, like more assumable?
We have not started doing a lot of those. People have asked about them. We talk about them a little bit. Again, you have to check the product. There's some liability involved. If that is something you're going to do, I would say make sure you're checking with the lender first to see exactly what the situation is going to be. And a lot of lenders, the loans weren't assumable when they were given. So you need to make sure that you are truly getting an assumable loan.
An assumable loan. Yeah. And we could do another video on this. Just, maybe connecting with the lender and talking a little bit more, because people are asking, I know, it has to be like a government loan, right? And again, it's possible. It's not something that's impossible to do, but just stay with us. We're going to give you more information on how we could do that with the lender. And also we're going to record another video with Abby when the moment is right to provide as much value as we can on that. So I think we're good, Abby. No more last questions.
No more last questions.
No more last questions unless you have something important. We've addressed so much. I guess the closing itself, you guys, it's about a month here in North Carolina. I guess somewhere every
as long as your lender's able to get you closed within a month.
Yeah,
we can get that. We do title as soon as we get the file. So your title work is going to be done. We just have to make sure we're collaborating with your lender and getting that CD and settlement statement ready for you.
Yeah. So don't send the money somewhere else. Always call Abby to wire the money. Make sure that your ID is current, it's not expired. Make sure that you connect with
your home to Costco.
Yeah, don't change your jobs. Don't say I moved to another company because it had better whatever reviews, and then suddenly we find out. I might look like I'm having all this dramatic face, but a small thing such as a freaking fence encroaching or a septic tank or anything can completely change the way a fairly simple upfront conversation could look like, or transaction. And I think that's the reason why, right now the sellers go in, the buyers go in, because we've been in closings where some agents were doing such a shitty job, and we had to work our butts off to bring people together because egos are suddenly involved. Now, suddenly the seller who's been trying to sell the house for many years doesn't want to sell anymore because the buyer did, I don't know, like, so many things happen. It is really like watching a soap opera. So it's not a joke, and it is an important decision in your life. So if you have any questions, and if you want to be represented accordingly in your real estate transaction, not to seem sassy or superior, but connect with me. Connect with me. I know what I'm doing, hopefully, right? I've been doing this for a long time. 5-star reviews, hundreds of people. I did not pay them to write reviews, by the way. I do not do that. I actually have recordings as well. I didn't pay them to do those recordings either. But thank you, Abby. I appreciate it. Have a nice lunch now. It's almost 1 o'clock. Thanks for watching, you guys. With any questions, comments, I know this video is probably the longest that I've ever had on my YouTube channel, but I think it's going to be living for a long time there, and it's very valuable information. So thanks again for being here, Abby. Sterling Law here in Cary, North Carolina. Me, Yoana Nin with the Prosperous Agency. Take care. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think right below. And subscribe again. Bye. Take care.
Guys.
Take care. Bye.